Good morning. Welcome to First Church in Boston's worship service, this 23rd day of October 2022. I'm Edmund Robinson, the interim minister, continuing the worship tradition of this church, which dates back almost 400 years. We're the oldest church in Boston with the newest building. Our Paul Rudolph designed sanctuary in Boston's Back Bay is open for live worship. We also welcome those joining us live streaming on Facebook. We hope those joining on or off the premises will find the time to visit us in person some Sunday in the future when we can meet you. Come on down. Today we're talking about sacraments. Those things are places or rituals which remind us of the holy dimensions in life. Generally, Unitarian Universalism is not a sacramental religion. But I'm interested to know if you have in your spiritual practice anything which might be like a sacrament, an occasion, a place, a gathering of people, physical objects or sacred texts which you use to connect you with a larger reality. I'm going to invite you to think about this, and if there's anything you have to share that fits my description, perhaps you could tell us about it at Joys and Concerns this morning. Our opening hymn is number 312, Here on the Paths of Every Day. Please remember to sing through your mask. Please be seated. May the light of love be shining deep within your spirit. May the torch of mercy clear the path and show the way. May the horn of plenty sound so everyone can hear it. May the light of love go with you every day. Our First Church affirmation is in your order of service. I invite you to rise as you are able and say it in unison with us. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Thank you. Please be seated. Of announcements, I have none. Does anyone else have an announcement they want to bring forward? I see that the search committee is hard at work and just had a workshop on arts in the church, getting ready to build that big fat website that will tell future ministers all about this church. So we're very excited about that. Any other announcement? Oh, we have an announcement from Janine.
Hi, everybody. Today after church, we'll have a pumpkin decorating opportunity. There are pumpkins and Sharpies and music, and we hope everyone will join and either decorate one and take one home, or decorate one and leave one, and we'll use it as decoration here in the sanctuary. Thank you.
Yes, and Pam.
I have over 100 bulbs to plant, and I'm looking for some help. If you could come before service, 10:30 next week, as part of the Boston Blooms, you'll be rewarded in the spring. We can also do it after service, after coffee hour, if that suits you better.
Thank you. All right, we're going to have our anthem, but just to give you a heads up, I've changed the responsive reading after the anthem. That will be number 614 after our anthem. The number, again, of the responsive reading is 614. When I was in seminary, I read this book, Black Elk Speaks. It's a wonderful book by a Oglala Sioux shaman about his experiences in the early part of the 20th century as an Indian activist and as a holy person. And this was his particular set of a vision that occurred to him. The sacred hoop. Then I was standing on the highest mountain of them all, and round beneath was the whole hoop of the world. And while I stood there, I saw more than I can tell, and I understood more than I saw. For I was seeing in the sacred manner the shape of all things of the Spirit, and the shapes as they must live together like one being. And I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that make one circle, wide as daylight and starlight. And the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father. And I saw that it was holy. So I invite you to come forward for any reason or no reason. We're discussing sacraments today. And I would say that just to talk about my family a little bit, we used to gather every other Thanksgiving at my sister's place up in the valley for a weekend. And that was a real touching home for all of us. This year we'll have to do it without my brother, unfortunately, but it was a great feeling of touching base, and I wondered whether anybody has stuff like this put into your lives, but you also can come forward and tell us anything at this moment because the floor is open.
A few weeks ago, I mentioned that my sister's dear friend Charles had a stroke, and this week he passed after several complications. He had a remarkable life. He was a Vietnam-era veteran who went AWOL when he realized what he was getting into, and of course that life decision determined much of the remainder of his life. He accomplished a lot and was a dear, dear friend to all of us. So I thank you for sharing this memory with me today.
Do I take that? I have a dear friend who just lost her companion of 40 years on Thursday, and I know how much she loved Tom, and she's at peace with his passing, and I just wanted to mention her name and Tom's. Thank you.
Hi, as I've been pursuing solo piano career for many years, but I also have played with a quartet that plays for English country dance music, and we've played together since the dawn of time, since about the mid-70s, every Wednesday for a dance until the pandemic. And also one of our members who had moved to Michigan, who didn't come every Wednesday, but we still played with him around the country. His wife had died right at the beginning of the pandemic. And so we last night had a reunion dance in Concord, and it was a wonderful, it was called Fall Favorites Dance, and it was amazing to be back with the four of us. It's really like my other family even though there had been many Wednesdays when I would go in over the years and think, why am I doing this? Not very much money, and it's just the same old, but it was just really wonderful reconnecting with my music family.
Good morning. I'm going to talk about what I used to do as a kid with my brothers and sisters during this time of the year. We used to make root beer, Hires root beer on Sunday afternoons, late in the afternoon, and cap it. And then we would bring it down the cellar and lay it all out, these 40 to 50 bottles of Hires root beer that we would be able to tap into during the holiday season. And this kind of weather and this kind of Sunday reminded me of that wonderful ritual and that fun time with my brothers and sisters.
One more stone for all those joys and sorrows which we hold in our hearts unspoken. The sermon reading is a folk song by Peter Mayer, who's a UU in the Twin Cities. And I first heard this whenever the last time General Assembly was in Minneapolis, St. Paul. I heard Peter Mayer sing this song, and it really took me. It's called Everything is Holy Now. When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy words and consecrate the holy bread, and everybody would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now. Everything's holy now. When I was in Sunday school, we would learn about the time Moses split the sea in two. Jesus made the water wine. And I remember feeling sad that miracles don't happen still. But now I can't keep track, 'cause everything's a miracle. Everything's a miracle. Wine from water is not so small, but an even better single trick is anything is here at all. So the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one. When holy water's rare at best, it barely wet my fingertips, but now I have to hold my breath like I'm drowning in a sea of it. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a different air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything is holy now. Read a questioning child's face and say it's not a state testament. That'd be very hard to say. See another new morning come and say it's not a sacrament. I'll tell you that it can't be done. This morning outside I stood and saw a little red-winged bird shining like a burning bush, singing like a scripture verse. It made me want to bow my head. I remember when church let out, how things have changed since then. Everything is holy now. It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, 'cause everything is holy now. Everything, everything, everything is holy now. Our sermon hymn is number 300, With Heart and Mind. Thank you. Please be seated. What are your sacraments? In my Episcopal past, I learned the Church's official definition of a sacrament. A sacrament is the outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace. While I no longer practice the actual sacraments of the Episcopal Church, I like the way that phrase rings, and I wondered whether there was anything comparable in our lives as you use to the sacraments of the more Orthodox Christian faiths. Do you have any rituals you perform on a regular basis, perhaps at a particular place, or perhaps with particular words, people, or objects, which get you in touch with an inward and spiritual grace, or even just a strong and pleasant memory? I preached a couple of Sundays ago on salvation, the idea that people were saved somehow by religion from an unpleasant destiny. In church history, sacraments were an integral part of the means of salvation. In Roman Catholic practice, there are 7 sacraments: baptism, confirmation, Holy Communion, penance, anointing of the sick, the ordination of priests, and matrimony. The most important and common are baptism and Holy Communion. These are deemed essential tickets to salvation, and they're recognized by a broad variety of Christian faiths, but not us. Unitarian Universalism has moved strongly away from Christianity in the last 2 centuries, and it is fair to say that we are not a sacramental religion today. We have a bust of Ralph Waldo Emerson in our narthex, in part to remind us that he split from the ministry of Second Church over a sacrament, Holy Communion. A few of the older UU congregations, even today, will break out their silver and hold a modified Christian communion once or twice a year, which we did here at First Church back before Easter. Many of our congregations will recycle the word communion into rituals such as the water communion or the flower communion. When we want to receive a child into the congregation, we will usually call the ceremony a dedication rather than a baptism or christening. But we do believe in ordaining our ministers, and we had an ordination here less than a year ago. We don't say a creed, but most of us willingly say an affirmation every Sunday. One such affirmation was written by Universalist minister L. Griswold Williams in 1933, and it uses the word sacrament in an interesting way. Here's the Griswold Williams affirmation, quote, "Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer." I love the idea that the quest of truth is our sacrament, our holy thing. Note that it is not the finding of truth which is holy, for we may debate endlessly about what the truth is. It is the quest which is holy, rather like the Arthurian quest to find the Holy Grail in medieval legend. In this age awash in deliberate misinformation, the quest of truth may serve Unitarian Universalists as a kind of path to the beloved community. What I'm curious about is whether any of you have occasions in your life where you touch base with something larger than yourself, and have these ever been formalized into something you could call a ritual. We have rituals for going to bed each night and for making coffee in the morning. Do you have a ritual which may get you in touch with ultimate reality? Well, consider Peter Mayer's song. Peter Mayer is a UU songwriter living in the Twin Cities, and I first heard him, as I said, sing Holy Now at General Assembly in that city many years ago. I was swept away. Everything is holy now, the song asserts. How can this be true? The song describes the spiritual journey that many of us in this room have taken, from an Orthodox Christian childhood to what I would call a reverential naturalism. Throughout the song is a contrast between the childhood experience and the present. When I was a boy each week, on Sunday we would go to church and pay attention to the priest. He would read the holy word and consecrate the holy bread, and everyone would kneel and bow. Today the only difference is everything is holy now, unquote. Remember, a sacrament is defined as an outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace. A sacrament is a ritual which is performed in the world we inhabit, which points toward the supernatural world. A sacrament, in conventional understanding, therefore, is based in dualism. The essence is this idea that there is a realm of the holy, which is conceived as supernatural, and then you have the realm we live in every day, the world of nature, and sacrament is the bridge between the two. Many of us in our faith development have rejected this scheme, but there are 2 ways you can reject it. You can say that everything is material and secular, that all talk of holiness is consigned to the realm of the tooth fairy and Santa Claus. As St. Paul said, when I became a man, I put away childish things. You can adopt a rigorous skepticism as to anything that your senses do not directly perceive, or that isn't represented in peer-reviewed scientific journals. But that's not the path Peter Mayer chooses. He rejects the dualism of Orthodox Christianity by broadening the category of the holy to embrace the natural world as well as things made by humans. Everything is holy now. Holiness is not restricted to the sacraments or to church on Sunday. Holiness is in everything. And Peter Mayer is not content with singing everything is holy. He also sings that miracles are everywhere. A miracle is conventionally thought of as a magical happening, an occurrence which transcends the laws of nature, such as making the sun stand still, raising the dead, walking on water, or turning water into wine. Mayer sings, "Wine from water is not so small, but an even better magic trick is that anything is here at all, so the challenging thing becomes not to look for miracles, but finding where there isn't one." Quote, "Properly seen," Mayer asserts, "miracles are all around us. An even better magic trick is that anything is here at all." That's the line which conjures one of the deepest questions humans ask themselves. Why is there something rather than nothing? Now, I'd like to set Mayer's song in some kind of context with a little etymology, a little history, a little theology, and then to suggest some of the problems that this worldview might open up. Let's start with the word holy. Our English language comes partly from Latin sources and partly from German. Holy is on the German side of the family and is related to the words whole with a W and health and hail. Sacrament comes from the Latin side of our linguistic heritage. Sacramentum is a past participle of sacrare, to concentrate. So sacramentum is that which has been consecrated, that which has been made holy. You have this related word also on the Latin side, sacrifice, from sacer, sacred rites, and facere, to make or do. So the root meaning of sacrifice is performing sacred rites. In the Hebrew Bible, God establishes sacrifice in the sense of giving a portion of food over to God as early as the second generation of humans. The first murder comes about in a fit of jealousy over sacrifice. Cain, the farmer, kills his brother Abel, the herder, out of jealousy when Abel's meat sacrifice is more pleasing to God than Cain's grain sacrifice. Later in the Torah, elaborate rules are enacted for performing animal sacrifices to Yahweh, as we saw a few weeks ago in the Yom Kippur rituals. Sacrifice was one means of connection to the holy in early Judaism, the other being the Ark of the Covenant, which contained the tablets of the Ten Commandments and the other laws given by God to Moses on Mount Sinai. When the Israelites wandered in the Sinai desert, the ark was portable and lived in a sort of tent called the tabernacle. But in the reign of King Solomon, a solid stone temple was built in Jerusalem to house the ark, and that temple grew to be conceived as the place on earth where God resided. Christianity arose out of the collapse of meaning within Judaism, occasioned by the destruction of the temple by the Romans following the defeat of the Jewish uprising in the year 70 of the Common Era. The writers of the Gospels seized on an idea enunciated by St. Paul that the death of Jesus on the cross was God's sacrifice to God's self. As the Jewish Seder was a remembrance of the liberation of the Jews from Egyptian slavery, so Paul understood the love meal eaten by Jesus' followers as a remembrance of Jesus' Last Supper, and thus the Jewish idea of sacrifice morphed into the Christian idea of sacrament. By eating that meal, the Christian is connected to Christ's sacrifice as the slaughter of the bull connected the Jewish worshiper to Yahweh. The God of the three monotheistic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, is often said to be transcendent. He or she is not of this world, but did create the world, but stands apart from it. In many pagan religions, by contrast, God is said to be immanent, not transcendent. Immanent means indwelling, and the idea is that God is present in the things of this world. A good example of immanence is the reading from the Oglala Sioux sage, Black Elk, we did this morning. And I saw that the sacred hoop of my people was one of many hoops that make one circle, wide as daylight and starlight, and in the center grew one mighty flowering tree to shelter all the children of one mother and one father, and I saw that it was holy. And I saw that it was holy, a Native American vision of the connectedness of all things. Remember that holy is connected to whole. Seeing everything that is as holy amounts to seeing everything in connection to everything else, what our seventh principle calls the interconnected web of all existence. Well, to return to Peter Mayer, in a sense, the narrator of our song has moved from a childhood religion of transcendence to an adult spirituality of immanence. And I bring the song forward because I think this describes the spiritual journey of a lot of us. It certainly describes mine. My childhood conception of God located him, it was always a him back then, in the sky. My first airplane flight, when I was about 7, was to St. Louis to visit my cousins. And afterwards, I reported to my mom that I had seen Jesus standing on a cloud. The excitement of the flight for me was to get me closer to where I imagined God lived. But part of the way I've developed, the way I've put aside childhood things, is through critical thinking, through doubt, and while I don't want to rain on anyone's parade, my critical mind raises a few problems with the approach outlined in this song. First, I have a suspicion that if everything is holy, nothing is. Consider the ferocity with which Christians, Jews, and Muslims contend over 1 acre of real estate in Jerusalem, the site of Solomon's temple in Judaism, the site of Jesus' ascension in Christianity, and the site of the oldest existing Islamic building in the world. Holiness, which is particular, which is restricted to one person, one location, or incarnate in one person, is more intense than holiness in every rock and tree. Cape Cod people will fight to keep their Nantucket Sound from being desecrated by a wind farm, and some others will fight to keep a mosque from being built at the sacred ground zero. But who would fight for holiness if every place was equally holy? Secondly, my universalist mind asks, if everything is holy, what about the bad places? The toxic dumps, the pools of radioactive water outside the nuclear power plant, the wastelands around the industrial parks, the places you wouldn't be caught dead walking your dog or riding your bicycle. Come to think of it, why restrict it to places? If everything is holy, then that includes the income tax return you haven't filed yet, the estranged ex-spouse or parent or brother you haven't talked to in 10 years. It embraces Hitler and Stalin and all the villains of the public stage, and the Holocaust and the earthquake and global warming and species destruction, the depletion of oil and the public's indifference and the lies that are being told and believed. I mean, it's easy enough to say that the little red-winged bird singing outside my window is holy, unless you're the grub that bird has just eaten. Third, in my book, mystery does not equal miracle. A mystery is anything that defies explanation. A miracle is something which defies the laws of nature. Religious naturalists start from nature, which is regular, and whose regularities can be described by impersonal scientific laws. When we get to a phenomenon which is not readily explained by those laws, we have a mystery, but we don't necessarily have a miracle. For many religious naturalists, this mystery, coupled with an awe at the beauty and complexity of the things we do understand, is enough. It substitutes for the awe we used to feel, or were told we were supposed to feel, in the taking of the bread and the wine. There are many things beyond our understanding, and one of the largest areas is our own minds. You can spend a lifetime just trying to get an understanding of yourself. But here I have to say to myself, wait a minute, this is a song we're talking about. Peter Mayer did not write a creed or a catechism or an academic paper, and it's unfair to subject the words of the song to the same scrutiny you'd give a statement of faith. A song is supposed to inspire, to speak to the heart, and this one speaks to mine and perhaps to some of yours. If miracle doesn't equal mystery, it's a reasonable metaphor. Peter Mayer holds a valid poetic license, and I'm not here to revoke it. For I think at base the attitude described in the song is a very important one, and a spiritually sophisticated understanding doesn't try to push it too far. To me, the best interpretation is the statement, everything is holy, is not a statement about the world, what philosophers would call an ontological statement, but a statement about how we might view the world, what philosophers would call an epistemological statement. It sounds easy to say that everything is holy, but it's not. It's not easy to say that the doctor's diagnosis of cancer is holy, that the poison ivy driving you crazy is holy, that the fight you're having with your husband, your overdrawn bank account, your flat tire on Route 6, the conking out of your boat motor 7 miles offshore, the blue light flashing in your rearview mirror, that any of these things is holy. But if you can see them as holy, if you can see that the good and the bad are two sides of the same coin, that without darkness there can be no light, without night there can be no day, you have attained spiritual progress. Peter Mayer writes, "It used to be a world half there, heaven's second-rate hand-me-down, but I walk it with a reverent air, because everything is holy now." What Peter Mayer's song says to us, my friends, is that holiness is not in the sky, in the great beyond, or in the past. It can be found in the here and now if we open our hearts and walk this earth with a reverent air. Our memories are precious, but so is the present time we are living through. It is a holy now, and if we open our eyes, it is everywhere. Amen. And now let us receive the morning offering for the advancement of this church. Please be seated. I invite you to join me in extinguishing the chalice with the unison with words in our order of service. We extinguish this flame. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Our closing hymn is When Your Heart is in a Holy Place. It's in the Teal hymnal, number 1008. May the light around us guide our footsteps and hold us fast to the best and most righteous that we seek. May the darkness around us nurture our dreams and give us rest so that we may give ourselves to the work of our world. Let us seek to remember the wholeness of our lives, the weaving of light and shadow in this great and astonishing dance in which we move. Amen. Blessed be. Go in peace.